Hey guys, mambo ni Peron once again. Leo ni Sunday kameboeka, lakini nilikuwa nataka niwapeleke raundi, niwapeka story moja. Na story tu moja inaweza wafascinate. Na hii story ni kuhusu country fulani inaitwa Portugal. Portugal inapatikana kwa Iberian Peninsula, iko pamoja na Spain. Ni jirani ya Spain. In fact, it's surrounded by Spain. In the year 1497, the king of Portugal sent a fella by the name Vasco da Gama, who had some mission to accomplish. First, he was to discover the route to India, because the Portuguese wanted to control the spice trade from the Arabs, who had dominated in that trade. But it was not an easy task. You can imagine sailing from a carack, a ship, from Lisbon to Mombasa, especially to Malindi. It is over 10,000 kilometers from Lisbon to Malindi. So Vasco da Gama ended up in Malindi on March 1st, 1498. Such a remarkable achievement at that time. You can imagine the ships that were built at that time. The people of Malindi actually, they welcomed Vasco da Gama in a heroic act. It was a surprise for many Africans at that time to see someone of that color. He wasn't an Arab. They were only used to Arabs. The main reason why Vasco da Gama came was because of trade. He wanted to trade with Africa. Portuguese had this thing in them that they wanted to expand their kingdom. They wanted to grow up to be a big and very known, let's say, kingdom. It was a kingdom, by the way. They had kings. In fact, the Portuguese, they were ruled by kings up to, the last king was Manuel II in 1908, 1907, 1908 there. So Vasco da Gama, after erecting a pillar in Malindi, he went straight to Goa, a province that the Portuguese had made theirs in the Indian subcontinent. It was a delight when he came back to Portugal with the news that he had found the route to India. The Portuguese had so many factors that they wanted to achieve with that expedition. First, they wanted to trade, and they wanted to find the route to India. And then the Portuguese were eager to retaliate from the Arabs who had colonized the Iberian Peninsula. You know, the Arabs had conquered up to Spain, and you know Spain and Portugal are neighbors. So the Portuguese kingdom wanted to revenge that act by coming to East Africa, colonizing the Eastern Africa, converting the same Muslims to Christian. They had that idea in their head. Although there are certain factors that really favored them. The natural harbors in the East African coast. The news of the natural harbor gave the Portuguese the need to be present, because they saw business, and the gold from Kilwa in Mozambique, and Sofala. You start from Sofala. The Portuguese, in fact, at the end of the expedition to India, Vasco da Gama went back to his king and told him that he needed to colonize the East African coast and bring it under the Portuguese rule. They did it. From Sofala to Mogadishu, it is a span of 400 kilometers. The Portuguese reigned those lands for 200 years. It began in 1505, when Vasco da Gama now came back officially to reinstate the Portuguese order. And there are a number of things that really came with the Portuguese. First, the Portuguese introduced a lot of things in Africa that maybe many people don't know. The cassava, maize, millet, not millet. In fact, it was cassava, potatoes, the European type of food. You know, some people actually don't really understand how the Portuguese changed the political dimension of East Africa. First, they broke so many kingdoms. They they displaced people and they broke so many kingdoms in Africa when they came. But good news is that they brought a lot of good things also to the local communities in Africa at that time. But the Portuguese were so ruthless. These individuals were so ruthless. In fact, let alone the divide and rule policy which they used, like the British. If you compare Portugal with other colonial masters in Africa, the Portuguese were very brutal. In fact, they never wanted to let Mozambique and Angola become independent. In fact, the Portuguese people